Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Okay, poddies, we are here. It is June. Yay! It's actually a pretty sad day for me because on the day that I am recording this, obviously it's a little in advance, but on the actual day that this comes out, this will be the day before Sam is heading back out into the big unknown world with the army for another couple of months. So today, if you are listening, know that when I'm recording, I'm absolutely not frustrated by packing or any of the last minute jobs that we will inevitably be doing today. But then actually I am spending my day rolling pairs of pants into little balls so they fit better in bags. Top packing tip there if any of you travel. If any of you travel and you want to pack more stuff, just roll it up into little balls. I will be going between, snotty crying and, big smiles of, it'll be fine, we'll have such a great time while you're away and you'll come back and everything will be wonderful. And obviously eating all of the Dominoes. That is my complete plan. As always, the day before any kind of exercise, deployment, anything like that. So as I'm recording this, big topics on the horizon. Some of you have been really enjoying the corporate episodes. So if you have gone back, you've listened to the episodes with the lovely Julie Dennis, or you've listened to the Selling with Corporate episode, and you've taken time out to email, thank you very much. Also, massive thanks to Hayley Gillard, who commented on my Facebook page the other day. See, I read Facebook, I do social media, and said that I was absolutely bossing it on the podcast at the moment. I kind of feel like I'm too, I don't know, I'm too, dare I say posh? Is that like a, is that a bad thing? But am I too posh to be like, I'm bossing it? I don't feel like I'm American enough. There we go, that's what I was looking for. I'm not American enough. If I had like an American accent, I could really do something awesome with that. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. And thank you massively to other people like the lovely Leanne Bennett, who went ahead and left an awesome iTunes review. Massively, massively appreciated. So what are we talking about today? Well, the corporate sales pieces have been really popular with you guys over the last few weeks on the podcast, and I've had lots of emails and messages to ask how you can be getting into more corporate companies and how you can be approaching more corporate business, getting proposals together, all that kind of thing. And that's going to be coming out on the new podcast, Selling to Corporates, next week. So if you are interested in that, don't think that I'm ignoring it on this podcast. It's just because I've put together an entire podcast all about selling to corporate companies, and that is going to be way more beneficial for you to go and have a little listen over there. That comes out next week. If you're not on the wait list yet, make sure you head over to smartleadersell.com/selling to corporate clients, and you can get yourself on the wait list for the new podcast and hear all about it there. Get some sneak previews before next week. So on the podcast this week, what I wanted to talk about was something relatively controversial, and it's this idea of huge audiences. Now, I've kind of talked about this before, and I've always been an advocate for you don't actually need a huge audience to sell a lot of stuff. But it's come up for me recently. I saw a story about an Instagram influencer fairly recently that you might also have seen. An 18-year-old called Ari who has 2.6 million followers on Instagram. Can we just give a little shout out there? That is phenomenal. Like, I am somebody who does not work hard at Instagram, but 2.6 million followers, I think that deserves some recognition. She's only 18 years old. She has 2.6 million followers. And recently she tried her first business venture. And again, I think we have to give massive kudos. At 18, I was not looking at huge business ventures. Instead, I was just kind of sat around, I was doing a bit of work, doing some college stuff, driving my friends to clubs. Always designated driver. When you're born in September and you're one of the oldest, you always end up being designated driver. But at 18, she's done really well. She's got 2.6 million followers on Instagram, and had decided to launch a clothing company, or had decided to launch a clothing line. Sorry, let's make sure that I'm totally fact checked. But she decided to launch this clothing line, and she had told her Instagram following about it. Obviously 2.6 million people, it's quite a lot. And within a week or so of this post going live, she wrote another post saying that she had failed with this particular business venture because in order to make the clothing line succeed and the clothing company continue to run it, she had to sell 36 t-shirts. Okay, so she had to sell 36 t-shirts from her clothing line for them to continue running it and running all of the drop shipping that they had discussed. And I just want to read out the post because I think this is something that is really, really relevant. And we're going to talk about why audience does not equal numbers necessarily and what you could be doing differently. But I think this is really relevant. And I know that, this post has been deleted, I think, from Instagram. And it's received a mixed bag of reviews on Twitter, on Instagram. Some people have been really trolling this kid for not being able to sell 36 t-shirts. I don't think that this is a trollable offense at all. I think she gave it, she absolutely tried to go out there and do something differently and it didn't work. And she, she's spoken transparently about it not working. And I don't think we should be trolling, children anyway. I don't think we should be trolling anyone actually, but but if we're going to, please reserve it only for adults. So she wrote a very long post. But the bit that stood out for me was, it breaks my heart to have to write this post. As you all know, I released my brand. I've poured my heart into this drop for my photo shoot. I flew out a photographer and a makeup artist, and I planned weeks ahead and was lucky enough to gather some friends who modeled for me. I rented a huge photo studio for the day so I could get as many shots and video promo shots as I could. But unfortunately, the company that I'm working with goes based on your first drop sales in order for them to order and make products, even to keep working with them. I have to sell at least 36 pieces. Knowing I've become super irrelevant, I already knew it was going to be hard, but I was getting such good feedback that people loved it and were going to buy it, but nobody has kept their word. So now the company won't be able to send out the orders to people who actually bought, and she says an explicit word, and it breaks my heart. Don't worry, you'll get a refund. And obviously I've omitted some pieces there. There are lots of thank yous to her photographer and stuff like that I don't really see the point in reading out. But I thought that was a really heartfelt post, and it's the sort of thing that I see a lot. Okay, this is the sort of thing that I see an awful lot before people decide to work with me, before people join my membership, before people join my programs. This is not uncommon. What is uncommon about it is that it's happening to somebody who we can actively see has a huge audience and who we would have prejudged and said, well, surely she's like the next Kylie Jenner, right? She's got 2.6 million Instagram followers. Of course, she can sell 36. And I think that's the piece that shocked the internet. She couldn't sell 36 t-shirts. Now, let's be clear, this episode is not me bashing this poor kid for not being able to sell 36 t-shirts. As we all know, sales can be a complicated and challenging beast. But I do think that there are certain things that we should be teaching everybody, every entrepreneur, about sales. And the first piece and the first lesson that really stood out for me was audience is not everything. Okay. Now, we've gotten to hear this in the online space a lot. People are like, oh, you've got to have this massive audience and that's how you're going to make all the money. And that's a load of tosh. Audience building is integral, obviously, to selling stuff. If you don't have people to sell anything to, you are not going to make money. That's just basic economy. But you don't need to have hundreds of thousands. And this is what we're teaching people now, it seems. We're saying to people, if you don't have hundreds of thousands of followers, you're not going to make the impact that you want in the world. You're not going to become the big thought influencer. You're not going to be able to sell 50,000 books. And actually, those things aren't true. And it's become really apparent to me over the last few years that people who are selling this endless, you've got to always have more people, you've always got to have new audience, blah, 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 blah. Perhaps they're not doing some of the other basics, the fundamentals of sales in the right way, which is ultimately, being able to resell your audience into different packages or programs or services, being able to upsell or actually having repeat business because people like to work with you. So whilst I agree that audience building is totally integral to growing your sales and growing your revenue, it's not the only thing that matters. And this is the biggest, or one of the biggest examples that we've seen of this publicly in a while. Okay, 2.6 million followers and not 36 t-shirts sold. And that's a very, very stark difference. Okay. And I think that's one of the most shocking things about it. And I think there are a few reasons. One is obviously because audience, like we say, it isn't everything, especially if it's not the right audience. Not all of your audience are buyers. And this is always something that comes up. People over the years have been very derogatory about people who just consume free content, free pull or freeloaders, or I had somebody about 18 months ago, bottom feeders. I was like, oh, that's wow. And yes, it can be frustrating to have people in your audience who only want free content, but it's not just their responsibility, it's also yours. So if you have a ton of people in your audience who are just consuming free content and they're never converting, you have to start looking at your actions. You have to start looking at, are you cultivating those baby birds that we've talked about in the podcast before? Are you actually selling to them often enough? Are you pitching regularly? And if you are and they're not buying, are you actually selling things that people want? Are you doing your market research? Are you selling things that your audience actually struggles with and wants to either achieve or surpass or transform into? And if you're not, then again, this whole piece. It's not just about having vanity metrics. It's not about the zillions of followers that you have on any one platform. It's about actually growing your audience with the right people and then doing the right market research so that you're actually converting them regularly. Because without that, it's not going to happen. Okay. And that was one of the things. So obviously, I saw this article, I think it was Lad Bible, which just goes to show the quality of the stuff that I read on the internet. It's not always incredibly highbrow, but it was on Lad Bible that this story had been picked up. And I went off and I started looking at this lady's Instagram account and some of the reasons that maybe, or some of the lessons that we could perhaps learn from this experience. And one of the things that actually came up both to me and then when I went and researched on Twitter before I decided to run this episode was that the overwhelming consensus for part of it was that her followers weren't necessarily her customers. There was no market research really. She'd kind of floated the idea a few times of having a clothing line and people were like, yes, that'd be really cool. But there didn't seem to be tons of market research into the style of the clothes that she was going to bring out or, how that clothing line was going to launch. There was no wait list that I could find. Now, bear in mind, obviously, people do change their Instagram quite a lot. So these posts could have been there, but by the time I started researching, they were not. I could not find them any longer. And so, when the clothes actually came out, when the clothing line came out, one of the things that struck me was that her audience were very interested. If you haven't looked at this Instagram account, then obviously please go and make your own opinions. But one of the things about this girl, Ari, is that her Instagram account is beautiful. She is an 18-year-old. She has the world at her feet. She's clearly intelligent. She takes beautiful photographs. Like, she has a stunning Instagram feed, which is selfies of her doing cool stuff, which is, that's what you do when you're 18, so fine. And she's got all of these followers. And then her clothing line came out and it was like nothing that she was actually wearing in any of her pictures. She's this kind of really cute, preppy kid, and she's got, mini skirts and crop tops and pastel colors and all this kind of, it's really nice. Look, I'm not a fashionista anymore. I'm too old, but she looks really well put together. And when her clothing line came out, I started looking at some of the images and I was like, oh, okay. So she's obviously got all these followers together who are following her because she has this really cool lifestyle. She, is showing photos of things that she's up to. She's going to prom. She's in front of nice cars. She's well dressed. And then her clothing line comes out and it's kind of like grey and, it's not fitted. It's like that boyfriend fit kind of stuff. It's not what she's wearing in her own Instagram feed. And I couldn't find any posts of her like wearing the merchandise or, I only found one promotion post from her on Instagram. Again, this isn't a criticism. We all struggle to sell our own stuff. It's one of the big things that comes up time and again. I feel awkward about promoting my stuff. I feel awkward about selling to my audience. I don't want to burden them. But this is a girl who, has this awesome Instagram following. They're, regularly engaging with her posts. They're liking them. And there was just one promotion post about her clothing line. Now, again, we take into account the fact that she is 18. This is her first business venture. She's probably feeling just like we all do about selling and feeling uncomfortable and not wanting to burden her followers and say, hey, go out and buy this. But when we compare this to, let's say, Kylie Jenner, whenever she brings out a new makeup, lip kit, whatever, they are all over. She's on Insta stories. She's promoting it on the gram. She's got posts going up. She's got sponsored posts going up. She's got all of her, tribe are going absolutely crazy because she's showing them sneak peeks of the new colors and what's going on. And that's how you have to create a buzz around something new, we have to give our audience warning that something is coming. And so often people just kind of launch things and expect, well, that should just sell. But it doesn't always. Even if you've done the market research, even if it's something your audience actually really wants and needs, it doesn't always just sell. You have to do the prep work. And that's what kind of came out of this as a big learning lesson for me. It kind of felt like, from what I could see on Instagram, she got really excited about this. She'd done all the hard work. She'd obviously put lots of time and energy, not to mention money, into photo shoots and video shoots and all this kind of stuff. But those things then didn't seem to have been used. They didn't seem to have been used to promote the things, because it was almost like that paralysis at the point of launch. She'd gone, oh gosh, one post should do it. And when it didn't, 13 days later, she was like, okay, I've failed. And that's a really hard position to be in. So what we can take away from this is, one, followers do not equal buyers. When you're building your audience, you really have to make sure that you are building an audience of people who are qualified leads, who are actually interested in what you are selling. And how you do that is up to you. You can do it through paid advertising. You can do it through making sure you've got a great welcome sequence that segments people really well. You can do regular list hygiene, whatever it is that it's going to take to make sure that the people who are following you, who are engaging with you regularly, are the people who are the right buyers. They're not just following you for, oh, Jess looks really great on Monday morning, so I'm just going to go and follow her. You want people who are genuinely interested and invested in the problem that you are trying to solve. The other thing is, you've got to have a clear transformation or something to sell, a clear offering, a clear USP, clarity around who your ideal clients are. And I see this after I started looking at this particular Instagram account. I started going off and looking at other micro influencers. Again, I don't have a lot to do with my time. Clearly, how I spend my day is just like, oh, I find something and I'm down this rabbit hole for hours. But I started going around and looking at other micro influencers and trying to think about why do they succeed where this girl maybe missed the mark. And a lot of it came down to, they had very clear USPs. Some people were funny. Okay, some people had Instagram accounts that were funny. So one of my best and favorite examples is the Instagram account at Crazy Jewish Mum, spelled MOM, because Kate Friedman Siegel is American. And it's hilarious. It's genuinely hilarious. I have followed it. I am not Jewish, but I have followed it since one of my friends recommended it to me about 2.5 years ago. And it literally is Kate screenshotting conversations that she has had with her mum. And over the years, it's kind of, as their life has progressed, her mum has gone from talking about her boyfriend and saying, no ring on the finger, you must not linger, one of my particular favorite quotes, one of Sam's most hated. And now her and her boyfriend are engaged, and so her mum is regularly sending her pictures of wedding dresses. She's trying to shoehorn her into certain wedding scenarios, and it's a really good account. And when Kate brought out her book, it was phenomenal. She brought out this book and it sold really, really well. Not only because her mum went and, sat in Times Square with a tutu on, telling everyone you need to go and buy this book immediately. She is seriously best mother ever. But also because there is a clear USP. It's very clear who the audience is. It's people who can immediately resonate with having a pushy parent, or who want to look at, just funny memes effectively, or funny screenshots all day. And other micro influencers who are doing particularly well in things like the fashion niche, they have a clear niche. They're doing things, maybe they're funny, maybe they're musical, maybe it's just really high-end couture, maybe it's, these hair and makeup videos that seem to be taking over the internet, hair and makeup tutorials. They have very clear USPs. They're very easily identifiable. And so when they do bring out a product, or when they do affiliate for a product, it makes it really easy for people to buy from them, because they have that immediate audience of qualified, interested, invested buyers in that sphere, or people who want to achieve similar things. And actually one of the interesting things for me was that, we often talk about on the podcast, looking at types of, what type of seller are you? And we talk about aspirational, emotional, or fear of missing out. And what is clear is that the people who are micro influencers, who are doing incredibly well at selling, particularly on Instagram, because that's where I was looking, but the people who are doing particularly well are all embodying one of those sales styles. It's either fear of missing out in the case of Kylie, and only a certain amount of lip kits have been produced this year, or it's emotional or aspirational, in look at me, this is the lifestyle I have. If you buy this, you could have it too. And that was the piece that missed the mark. That was another piece that missed the mark with this particular launch. And it's really important when you are launching that you have that buyer style. Not only do you have your qualified buyers, your qualified leads, but you actually embody a style. Are you being aspirational? Are you showing people that there is some transformation that can be achieved, or that there is something that they can attain if they work with you, or if they take the same actions? Are you showing them what is possible for them if they make a change? Or emotional, are you building that deep relationship? Are you showing the outcomes? Are you showing the lessons learned, how they can learn from your mistakes? Or, in the case of today's episode, other people's. Or are you giving them that really clear identifier? This is who you need to be to buy something. Because if you're not doing those things, it is really challenging to get your audience to convert. Ultimately, we have to make sure that we're focusing on the right things for our audience. And, those right activities are not necessarily the most complex. Okay. They're not about going out and immediately hiring the hair and the makeup team and the photo shoot and the branding guys. That stuff is secondary. Instead, you've really got to qualify that audience first. Then you've got to actually sell to them clearly and transparently and tell them why you want them to buy. And you've got to have a really clear launch process. And that's the kind of third thing that stood out to me. One promotional post in 13 days. Now, my clients will tell you when we talk about launch planning, we've talked about it on the podcast before, but when we talk about launching, people should know that you're launching. Okay, it shouldn't be one social post and that's that. Even if you have 20 squillion followers, you want to be regularly engaging with your audience and letting them know that you have something to buy. Now, in the case of this young lady, I don't know whether she had an email list. Perhaps she hadn't been building her Instagram to make her email list grow in any specific case. But the reality is that, in her fail post, she wrote about having become super irrelevant. And, maybe that's that she hadn't been engaging that regularly, or maybe it was that she hadn't built an email list, or that her following wasn't as engaged as normal. And then when she launched, again, it didn't have that same impact. This is why it's really important, always engage and nurture your audience. Think about the nurture tools that you're using. Do you have an email list that you haven't emailed in months? And if you do, it's time to email them, right? We can't just expect people to never hear from us. And then when we have something to sell, we're going to send out one email and 20 of them are going to buy it. We have to nurture them for the rest of the year. Maybe you've got a podcast or a YouTube channel or a Facebook group that you do nothing with. Yes, I'm putting my hand up there. Okay, I need to be more proactive there. Got it. But maybe you have these things and you're not using them to great effect. And, I think we can all get caught up in that trap of thinking, well, it's free. I have to keep providing free stuff. You don't. You don't have to create new content all the time. It doesn't all have to be hard work. It doesn't all have to be, really lengthy videos and tons of editing and all this kind of thing. But you do actually have to engage and nurture your audience in order to build a relationship with them, in order to continue that know, like, trust factor. And if you don't, then it is going to be much harder. So those are my thoughts on an unfortunate situation. Like I say, genuinely, I'm gutted. I'm absolutely gutted for the girl. I think that at 18, I would be proud that I just had the steel ovaries to go out there to 2.6 million followers and say, I have something to sell, please buy it. I think absolute kudos. So, I'm not getting involved with any of the trolling online and the passive aggressive comments that are going on, but I do think that there is a lot to learn from that situation. So if you have been thinking, oh my goodness, I need to grow my audience, and really buying into, I've got to have squillions and squillions of followers, please discard that notion. You do not have to have hundreds and hundreds of followers. You have to have engaged, interested, and invested leads, and you have to work hard on your conversion skills. Just because you have 2.6 million followers does not mean that you will sell anything. You must have sales skills. They are so, so important. Okay. So if you are thinking, but Jess, I only have 100 people in a Facebook group. When I saw that my first 25 person group program, I had an email list of 237 and no Facebook group, right? 25 people. All of the laws of statistics say that it shouldn't have happened. I think the latest stat that we're quoting on audiences are that 1% will convert, but that's not true. if you focus on your skills around conversion. All right. So if you are having trouble converting your sales, please make sure that you get in touch. That is what I'm here for. That is what I'm here to help with, and there are lots and lots of cool things going on in my world at the moment that can help you at any level or budget. So yeah, just gonna throw that out there to my 2.6 squillion podcast listeners. And I will let you know if I sell 36 things today. Probably not, because it's one episode, right? So if you are struggling with sales, please make sure that you drop in an email. I do reply to every single one personally, even though sometimes it does take me like 3 or 4 days to get back. I apologize. I seem to be swimming in emails, but I do get back to every single one personally, and I do really, really appreciate them all. So have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'm back on Friday. We've got another super cool guest expert in on our Friday episode this week. It's the lovely Lee Jackson. So if you are around on Friday, you're interested in speaking and thinking about what it takes to become a motivational speaker, then tune in on Friday for our behind the scenes conversation, which actually was super, super interesting, and all about how you as a speaker can make more impact to the people that you are speaking to. So I will see you guys on Friday's episode. As always, if you want to leave a review on iTunes and let us know that we are doing a great job in terms of producing the content, and of course to Scott and the rest of the production team for making it sound epic, I would also love that. I'll see you in Friday's episode. Have an amazing week.